leaving Tallahassee right now. I did a little stop to do some strongman training with my coach Junkyard, and now I'm going to be heading 4.5 hours north to Savannah, and I have a reading with Melanie and Tony tomorrow at E-Shaver Booksellers in downtown Savannah. So yeah, I will catch up with you in beautiful Savannah, Georgia. So even though my car just randomly broke down on the morning of the reading here in Savannah, it's hard to be upset on such a beautiful morning in such a beautiful place. I still am upset, but it is hard to do that.
It's a beautiful city. I think it's artists are drawn here between the live oaks and the architecture and the history. It's just kind of ethereal, almost. Savannah, just being in it, much different from like a concrete jungle. So there's less opportunities because it's so small, but because it's so beautiful, I think it's inspirational just hanging out in Savannah. It's so fun. Everything I'm gonna say is so fun. So fun. It's kind of a haven. It's very much like an Austin to Texas. Or a DC to the surrounding area, where Savannah is so different from the rest of Georgia. It's completely apart, like a different universe from, I mean, you literally go 20 minutes out of the city and it's like a whole new world. When I was a little lady in grade school, I started a poetry timeout session for a school where I would walk around from class to class with a little clockwork sign on a post that said, "Time for poetry," and with dreams of being the next Shel Silverstein, pulling my chin up high for a win, I delivered monthly original rhymes to my shiny-eyed teachers and schoolmates and got my first taste of sweet applause. All the while telling myself, I'm not a poet because only adults who live in fancy cities with years of experience and books for sale are poets. When I was in middle school, I created a poetry club and publication for my fellow students, adequately entitled Word Up, with an exclamation point so everyone could exclaim their points in print. My last year there, 4 students were smashed in a car crash, and another when she fell off a slow-moving vehicle and her head clashed just right with the parking lot pavement. She had been my best friend.
I mean, people say that independent bookstores are a lost kind of entity, but I think that they're back on the rise, and with a lot of Southern writing especially, there's something very intrinsic about narrative in Southern people, and I think that's something that you find a lot in Savannah, just, you know, with like Flannery O'Connor, who grew up here, and then different Georgia authors like Margaret Mitchell, but literature is alive, and people want an intimate book selling experience, so they come to us for that.
It was the city that was saved in the Civil War. You know, it didn't burn to the ground, so it's one of the few southern cities that still has its history at all. So just stepping into that on top of the kind of more woke culture that you get here, as opposed to a lot of the surrounding areas is more conservative. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So come visit Savannah.
You know, the best thing about Savannah is the geography, actually, and the history and the city. It's one of the most beautiful cities in America, and just walking around downtown or midtown or in the coastal waterways that are around here, it's very inspiring, especially if you love nature and if you love history and architecture. There's beautiful architecture. So it has that real kind of, you know, classical, romantic, you know, feel to it. As an earring who somehow knows everything there is to know about driving across open country in the vast Midwest of the Americas, somehow knows that the pulsing bass rhythm, dump, 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 dubba, dubba, is exactly the sound and feel of the road stretching out into nothingness beyond the headlights as my hand taps the steering wheel and it's 4:30 and I'm shifting gears. And I start to sing, "When I get lonely and I'm sure I've had enough," because I have, because this 1966 VW belongs to my girlfriend's brother, and I'm driving it back from the Windy City as a favor to her, even though I know that we'll probably not last a month longer, that we're both starting to feel that radio is playing that forgotten song and that one more radar love is gone, and that's okay, because now with the radio blasting and the wind blowing warm through the windows, I'm dreaming of you, years before you're born, and I somehow get that when I meet your mom, we won't need a radio at all. We'll have a line in the sky, we'll have a thing that's called radar love. Yeah, the literary scene has started growing a bit more, and there's a lot of great support for the independent bookstores, particularly. They're wonderful here. We're at East Shavers today. There's also the Book Lady bookstore. They're both really big supporters of the arts and the literary arts. Summer Pine Blues. And what will the scent of pine resin bring, together with the sparrowhawk rising on heavy air above, the needles, cones, spring bud scales, whorled, spiraled branches disguising Fibonacci ratios, thick-scaled bark, dark brown tinder set to blaze in the high heat of summer, where our impossible dreams carry us, sun-blinded, warm-skinned, bare feet treading tinder over broken paths, seams between roots we follow, like pilgrims pulled to holy lands through wilderness, until we stop and breathe the taste of sunshine cooled beneath the shade of long leaf or slash, in still, close hours alone, where we sometimes confuse the bruised smell of summer pine with the blues.
I want to crack the clear ice veins in your heart lining. I want to crack at your smile, tugging at the corners of your mouth until your laughter's singing. I want my words to linger in the cracks of your spine, to tingle the fine follicles down the small of your back, all the while telling myself, now I know it, I'm a poet.
So it's a lovely place to live and a lovely place to write.